this is for our government, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And
So now, I mean, you guys go one step further. Is that something you want to talk about?
this is actually something that we prepared and have been working on for years, because since 2000, we have been under the inspection service of the Australian Food and Drug, which is the Therapeutic Goods Administration, and they consider zinc a drug. They consider vitamin C a drug. So if you're making things in a plant, you have to make them to their standard, which they consider a drug standard.
Yeah.
Same as prescription and legend drugs. So all of this, actually, many of these things go a little bit further than some of the requirements that the FDA has had for a long time. With the new regulations of the FDA, it dovetails nicely, because we've been doing a lot of this for so long to satisfy the requirements of the FDA, or the TGA, which is the Therapeutic Goods Administration from Australia. So I actually have for you, this is a real certificate from the TGA. This is from one inspection. This is
the official holographic seal.
I know, it can't duplicate it, but it's nice having them do an inspection. If you want to sell in Australia, you have to have them come in and do an inspection. And what it does is it gives a little credibility. Now that we have the FDA doing more inspections and they have more power in what they can do as far as looking at records and looking at manufacturing, there will be a washout of a number of manufacturers over the period of the next 3 years. So it just, before people, if the FDA was not there, they would hire someone to do an inspection so they could put some sticker on their label from a company that does inspections, and there are hundreds of different symbols for GMP and certifications that you find on the website, that, and many of them mean nothing. A few of them have some strength to them, but the FDA, does not sit and give you a certificate that you've been inspected. So to get into Australia, you need to have this certification and inspection. And it's not just for your SOPs, your GMP, it's the envelope of your factory, but also all the things that you do inside, whether you're doing laboratory testing and you're doing in-process quality control, and whether you've got the labeling and packaging covered properly, and then release, where you can release a product and show the documentation that everything's been done, and you're doing stability tests and quality control tests. So this is a period since 2000, and we were inspected about 6 months ago, and we're going to be awaiting that certificate. It should be here after the first of the year. This is still current for another year, but even though you have a 3-year certification, they come in every year and a half.
Yeah.
So,
well, now to give the audience an idea, I mean, these people come in and take over your factory for a week, or what do they do?
Well, it's interesting that I think we talked before this in an interview that's on Natural Partners TV,
right,
where we talked about a doctor offering his services to spend a couple of hours in factories and give people his judgment call as to whether or not the factory was qualified to be something a doctor could have confidence in. I mean, it takes an inspector or 2 inspectors a full 3 days to peel back the onion a little bit and see what's going on in the factory. So you're seeing someone for 3 days. This recent audit was an inspector from Australia, and she had a vast pharmaceutical background and process background and laboratory background. So it was quite thorough. And they're very cordial, but what they're doing is they're ensuring that you're actually doing the stuff that you say you're doing. There are a lot of companies, we have cleaning procedures in here, and there are a lot of companies that do not follow through once someone walks out the door. It's like going to your neighbor down the street. You're invited to a party, and you can tell whether or not their house is always clean, or they just clean it up that one time, once a year, for you folks to have the party. The inspector knows that. But there's a photo that I love, and we were looking to buy a machine. It's a roller compactor, and it was advertised on the internet. And the company that had it was a used equipment dealer, and it was shiny and beautiful. And it said, still in use in a plant in New Jersey. So I sent my plant manager with a camera, and the photo on the screen is what he found. It hadn't been cleaned for 4 or 5 months. You can see the filthy conditions. And they were running product that day, and in the room there were cobwebs in the air removal system. So this company had a little GMP sticker from one of those little agencies. Well, it's one of those that does an inspection and analyzes a couple of your products, and then they put the stamp on your letterhead and you can tell people you've been inspected by them. But it doesn't mean anything when they walk out the door and you don't clean your machines. So this is where it's nice for us to have gone and had the extra mile for the real regulatory agency to come in. And now that the FDA is doing a lot more of this and they have the teeth that they can go in and do these inspections, it's going to make it so that everyone's going to have in-depth SOPs, good GMPs, and they're going to have to follow through. I mean, this is something that's going to be mandatory, or they will be asked not to be in business.
Wow. Well, all of this should give people the greatest confidence that when they buy your products, that every little thing is done right.
Well, it's interesting. Let me read to you from the certificate. This is the 06 certificate in the format they used at that time, where we are listed as doing finished product manufacture, quality control testing, which means we have a laboratory, packaging, which means we're able to bottle and package it properly, labeling it properly, and release for supply. And interesting enough, off the internet, there's a company that has a GMP TGA certificate that is really kind of a partial certificate for their sale, and they're in Washington State, and it's a good company, but they put it on their website, and they would tell everybody that they're TGA certified, but it's really kind of a partial TGA certification. And I like to, occasionally someone asks me about, well, what about those guys? And I always like to read this part of their certificate where it says, the company manufactures herbal and vitamin products in tablet and powder dosage forms, excluding microdose products. So they were not able to sell things that had microdose, like B12 and vitamin D, and things that are very minuscule doses. Mm-hmm. They were not able to sell those into Australia, and I don't ask the reason why, but who knows what they found in the inspection. And it says that the products had to be supplied in bulk for final packaging in Australia, and these are the products that were included for the audit for Australian sale. So that meant that there's no mention of the quality control, the in-process control, the labeling, the packaging. It was just, you can make herbal tablets and calcium tablets, put them in big bags and boxes and ship them to Australia, where someone who's approved by the TGA for those processes will be able to do what they want with them. And I always found it just kind of cute and amusing that we have a full certificate, and there is a difference here.
It would tick me off if somebody, if you've gone through this kind of work to do things, and somebody is claiming partial credit. Not really fair.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But what's
you got big shoulders, right?
Yeah. Well, nothing bothers me, I think, sometimes. So the TGA is to us very valuable, because if we want to go to another country where they don't have a FDA or a TGA, it's a small country. If you have this certification, you can actually be accepted into those countries just fully as good manufacturing. You don't have to go through any more steps or process to get into that country. So it's quite good.